the best reasons for you to amplify your thought leadership and put yourself out there as a subject matter expert is it's going to help you find the people that you want to have as your customers. So while we are now becoming used to having Zoom meetings, maybe you're doing bid defenses or you're doing sales presentations and demos on Zoom, when people can hear you talk about your expertise, that automatically starts the trust factor and allows you to truncate the amount of time it takes for you to build your relationship. So, I've got a couple of tips that I will share with you from my time and experience speaking on stages and on podcasts. And at the end, I will give you a takeaway that has lists of specific places where you can apply to speak. And also, I've got a speakers platform to share with you that you can go register for. So, let us dive right into it. We're dealing with a heavily regulated industry, and trust really becomes the platform. So, before your deal even starts, if you can showcase your expertise, you've already started to build your trust there. We know that our buyers, our prospects, are doing 67% of their research before we even know they're looking into us. So, if you can get yourself out there as a subject matter expert, as somebody who knows what they're talking about, they will already be diving into their buyer's journey, trusting the things that you have to say. Thinking about compliance is important, and thinking about stages and the way you position yourself is going to help you accelerate your contacts, your prospects, your relationships. And one of the things I tell all the students in my MBA marketing class is you should think of every piece of content as something you can continue to repurpose, right? So you're coming into this with a lens of an expert who knows something really well, who can speak about it with authority. And if you've got a talk or you've made a podcast, you can continue to repurpose that to your advantage. So one piece of content can go a really, really long way. So, being credible is the most important part. I know every single one of you can talk about many things. You have come into this position by gathering experiences. But one of the things I want to invite you to do is really think about what is the topic that you are the most credible on. So, me, for example, I talk about technology user adoption. I did my PhD dissertation on that. That's what I'm known for. So while I can talk about other things, speaking about the things that go into user adoption is the thing that I am trying to continue to build my platform on. So 15 or maybe 18 years ago, I went through the National Speakers Association Academy where we spent an entire year working on our talks and the way that we monetize them and the way that we turn them into prospects and opportunities. But the most important thing that I came away from that training on was you have to find your angle. So know what it is that you and only you can speak about and really stay focused on that in every single presentation that you give. Getting booked on podcasts is a fast and easy way to get your name out there. And you can then use those podcasts and your authority there to find speaking slots on stages. Podcast hosts are always looking for somebody to guest. Speaking slots are harder to get, so the funnel gets a little bit tighter. So anything that you can do to showcase yourself, whether it's a sizzle reel, whether it's just a video of you speaking on a user group like this, and I invite every single one of you to do that. Make sure that you're capturing it so that you have it for social proof as you're trying to find speaking slots at different events. So, how do you find your angle? You need to look to say, what is the thing that I do that I can only do? So, what's the tension that you resolve that nobody else can explain? What's the question people ask you the most? Find that pattern whenever you are on a meeting. If somebody's asking you that and everyone's looking to you to be the expert, that probably is some indication that you're the one who can most likely speak on this with credibility and authority. And I like to use a very simple rule that I learned from Mike Weinberg, which is X by Y. I help X by Y. I help people who are in the life sciences use Salesforce to drive revenue and results by asking qualitative questions to really understand what the user is experiencing before launching into optimizing their Salesforce instance. Whatever your X by Y is, That's what your talk should really be about. So for me, I think a lot about the diffusion of innovation theory based on the PhD research that I did, and I've got plenty of sales floor experience myself. So think about the sentence that really describes you, and that should be the way that you present yourself to your calls for presentations or calls for speakers. How do you get booked on podcasts? And I will tell you guys, there are a lot of services out there that are trying to sell you on letting them book you on podcasts. Before you ever do something like that, try it yourself because there are loads of podcasts out there that want to host or a guest exactly like you. So dig into wherever you listen to your podcasts, Apple or online on Spotify, and really start to listen to what that host is talking about and how you can pitch yourself to them. And they'll be interested to hear what it is that you have to share with their audience because they need high quality content and you can provide it. One of the things that I like to think about all the time is how do you stand out by saying something that says either I've been through this and this was an incredible, insane experience, or most people say this and I'm going to tell you why that's wrong. So on the flip side, I do host the Life Sciences Sales Lab podcast, and I'm always looking for something that people can learn. So, what happened? I had a guest on, Natalie, who sat at the top of a multi-billion dollar EHR launch that failed. And so she had some really interesting things to say that I think the folks who listen to my podcast would love to hear about that they can use as a case study or story in case they don't have one themselves. How to secure speaking engagements. All right, so we know there's loads of community conferences in the Salesforce community. They're all looking for speakers. They all have calls for speakers. There's World Tour, there's Dreamforce, there's TDX, and you can get booked on these stages if you can show them, one, I have something that people want to know about, and two, I've got a little bit of social proof. And that can start from your podcast. It can start from speaking at community groups like this one. And really, what you need to say is, why does everybody need to hear what I have to talk about right now? Don't worry about feeling perfect, right? You can make sure that you say, everybody who listens to me is going to walk away with these 1 to 3 things, and that outcome is going to be what the choosing producer is going to be looking for. So, right now, I have a submission out for the Pittsburgh AI Summit, which is coming up soon. And I called it the adoption gap, why AI fails in regulated industries. And anytime you put a word like that, people are going to want to know because they want to learn from what you know and not fail themselves. And so I tied my submission to Pittsburgh Life Sciences, the research that I did for my dissertation, and then my concrete takeaway is something attendees can take away and immediately start to use as a framework in their daily life. Building a sizzle reel should not be scary to you. You know, with the rise of TikTok and other platforms, people are now rewarding authenticity over perfection. So you don't have to worry about having somebody build out a sizzle reel that's got moving graphics and has got a lot going on. It just needs to say, hey, here's how I can present. This is the way that I keep audiences engaged. And these are the things that only I can talk about. So, you can build that from one of your community events. If you speak at a Trailblazer community, you can take it from if you've spoken in front of a group of people. If you belong to a local Toastmasters group, they often do one meeting a year where they actually will record sizzle reels. So you'll give a 5 minute lightning talk to other speakers who will also be giving 5 minute lightning talks, and they'll record that for you. And that's a good way to get social proof too, because people who will book you are looking to say, does this person know what they're talking about? And can they deliver it in a way that will make audiences listen? So I've got a promo video that I took from my initial book launch. It's about time. And I just asked people in the audience, what did you think about this? And so it was fairly easy to gather that social proof. And I send that out whenever people want me to speak on that topic. Okay, a few common mistakes that I think you want to know about. Don't wait for permission. So you can just reach out and say, I understand your audience. Here are the things that I can augment their knowledge with. These are things that I would love to share with your group. Lead with your credentials. Let them know the things that you've done and how you can add that value. You can also make sure that you are consistent about the way you're reaching out. If you spoke at Dreamforce in 2019, that's awesome. That's credibility, but we've had a major global shift since then. So look for ways to modernize your talk, even if you're taking that same topic and repurposing it as a LinkedIn blog or a video on LinkedIn, something that says, here's what I said 6 years ago, here's what I'm saying now. And make sure that you don't say, I'm constrained by being regulated. Make sure that you're looking for ways to expose how being regulated also adds creativity as you think through the way that you can expose your particular expertise and experience. So, how can you put this into play? You didn't just come here to listen to this and do nothing about it. First, you want to think about what your angle is. So, by the time we meet again next month, you should have a commitment to yourself. What is the one thing? What is your X by Y? How do you know that you are the only person that can speak on this topic? Think about what that is and go ahead and pitch 3 podcasts. Again, you can use the handout that I'll give you but before we leave this meeting to help you find a few to pitch. Next, think about 2 calls for presentations. Me personally, I have set up a Google alert that says call for speakers, call for presentations, call for papers. And so I get a Google alert every day that tells me whenever somebody is looking for a call for presentations or they're looking for speakers on their stages. Do I get paid for every single time I step on the stage? No, I get paid for most of them, but there are times I will say, I have something to give back to this community, or I want to get in front of this group of people. They're my direct ICP. So I make those choices whenever I'm looking at calls for presentations. And I will tell you, don't be afraid to spend your time and money to get on a stage if it's exactly what you need to move your angle forward. And then finally, don't forget to capture your reel. Many presentations can be captured if you're at a conference naturally by the conference, or they may offer a paid upgrade for you to get it. But I'm going to tell you now, you can go onto Amazon, you can buy a tripod that will hold your phone, and you can buy a teeny tiny little remote that will allow you to record yourself while you are on stage. And that is going to be really helpful for you to have that type of footage by spending, I think a tripod is $9 and one of the remote Bluetooth remotes to start your presentation recording is about the same. So for 20 bucks, capture your own reel. It doesn't have to be perfect. No one who's booking people on the stage is booking you to do their video production. They just want to see you're natural on stage, you don't have a lot of ums and ahs in your speech, and that you are captivating to the people while you are in front of them. One of the things that I think about when I'm looking at the intersection of where I speak is I know that I'm thinking about user adoption specifically for Salesforce, specifically in the life sciences industry. And there may be a handful of other people who are out there who can talk about this same thing, but there aren't many because I've narrowed that angle down so specifically that it can only be about me. And by next month, when we get together, this is what I want you to think about. What are the things where if somebody said, okay, this is the descriptor, and I will immediately be able to say, okay, I know who that is, right? That's Sophie. Only Sophie can make that claim. So think about what your specific intersection is. And as you look at that angle, you can build multiple talks around that. If you want to look at my speaker site, which is shannongregg.com, at the events page, you can scroll through and see all the topics that I have spoken about. And most of them are slightly hedged around the same primary topic. So check that out and don't be afraid to build out yours exactly like that.